Where the place?
Upon the heath.
There to meet with Macbeth.
Don't say that, it's bad luck.
One dysfunctional family does another in a one-man multimedia extravaganza that's fast, furious, and fun for the whole family.
Oh, horror!
Oh, knock. Out damn spot.
Tonight, Rick Miller is with me here, and tonight he's going to be performing in his one-man show, MacHomer.
Yes, I am.
Wow, so how long have you been doing this show now?
14 years.
Wow.
He says with a sigh. 14 years on and off. I don't perform it all the time because it's a very schizophrenic show, and I think I'd go crazy if I were doing 75 voices in 75 minutes every night of my life.
Yeah.
But I've done it in many different versions. It started as a little joke, and now it's turned into a big joke, and that fills, you know, these big theaters around the world.
It's amazing. So it must have actually changed over the years as well.
It started as a cast party joke, literally. I was in a production of Macbeth.
Yeah.
It's The Simpsons do Macbeth, for those of you who don't know MacHomer. Anyway, I was in production of Macbeth playing Murderer Number 2, and I had all this time on my hands backstage to sort of create a little cast party prank, and that prank was casting Arsh, you know, doing a little parody.
Yeah.
That turned into a Fringe Festival show, then a comedy act that started touring, and then a larger show that started touring the world, and now I guess a much more sophisticated show, even though it's still a silly premise to begin with.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, you take one of the, you know, most sophisticated plays of Shakespeare, and then you take, well, a very relevant show.
Pretty sophisticated show if you speak to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is. I'm not a fanatic of the show. I know there's some people who watch every episode. I love the show. It's great. It still makes me laugh after all these years. 20 years that show's been going.
It's amazing.
But the fact that it's been going so long means that it really is one of the better, more developed shows on TV. People really do care about these characters, even though they're all pathetic and they're all losers and they're all laughable. There's a sort of tragic nobility to all these characters that you throw them into Macbeth, and it becomes a bit like a Simpsons Halloween episode where all of a sudden they can kill each other under different parameters, and it's good fun.
So was it hard to figure out which characters would be which ones, like to match the Simpsons with Macbeth?
Yes, it was. It's mostly because there's so many good characters in The Simpsons, especially male characters.
Yeah.
And there are about 50 major characters in that show, and only 12 major characters in Macbeth. So I had to invent things like the dream sequence and the this and that, the understudy line of kids coming in to do that. So I got very creative with it. And yes, there's some great roles, but some of them wrote themselves. I mean, the drunken porter, Krusty the Cloud, and Barney. I'm Barney, I play Macduff. Homer plays Mr. MacHomer.
Lady MacHomer plays out damn spot.
Yeah.
There's Apu, I play Murderer Number 2. I'm Atu, I'm Murderer Number 3. I'm Grandpa, I play one of the murderers. Three Witches, played not by Patty and Selma. They appear as the Weird Sisters, but no, Three Witches are Captain McAllister, Mo the bartender, hello, and Principal Skinner. So those are all the major parts. And Banquo, Ned Flanders, Oakley Dokley, he plays. And lest we forget, Mr. Burns plays King Duncan. I'm an excellent king.
So was there a reason that you put Apu as Murderer Number 2, seeing as that was your big shining role?
Apu. Yeah, I love Apu, and he just sounded good saying the 6 lines that I had in the play. There's so many good characters in The Simpsons, and often they have these national polls to see who's their favorite character. Yeah. And it often comes down to Mr. Burns and Ralph Wiggum, who gets just a little part, because all the kids are played by women, and I tend to voice men better than women. So I play Marge, she has a big role, but the kids play small roles, and I kill them off pretty quickly.
I think you kind of need a lot of these things going on, because I know you're one of these guys who, you've got like your master's in architecture. How many languages do you speak? I speak
3.5 languages. In another play that I just opened, I speak 5 languages in this play, and I sing opera in Polish. I tend to, inspired by people like Robert Lepage, who's a big theater director around the world, in our own backyard in Quebec City. He was my mentor because he set no limits to himself. He said, look, theater doesn't have to be this or that. It can be whatever you want it to be, as long as it communicates with people. And that goes the same with your abilities. You know, if you want to learn the trumpet, there's really no sense why you can't. And it just becomes yet another resource that you bring to the table, another way for you to express yourself. So I find he pushes me, and already I did bring a lot to the table, because I was not a generalist. I was not a specialist, I was a generalist. I wanted to be good at music. Arts, architecture was a great mother of all the arts, in the sense that I could also study engineering, but also, you know, do freehand drawing in the same program. That suited me.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, who was, tell us about Robert LePage. He was quite a big influence on you,
He
right?
was. Now, people don't really know of him. Those who know him well, because he's a huge theater director around the world. He directs for Cirque du Soleil. They have a big show in Vegas called Ka. He directed that. He's directed for Peter Gabriel, some very, very popular rock and roll tours. But his plays are probably among the most celebrated in the theater world. But he's fantastic in that he's considered avant-garde, but he reaches, you know, with Cirque du Soleil every day, thousands of people, with just a very incredibly creative vision that isn't just your standard, you know, mega musical. He's a true artist, someone who's deeply funny at the core and deeply humble, and that's been a huge inspiration for me. To be one of the biggest in the world, like the Bruce Springsteen of theater, and yet to remain just, again, very open-minded to anything.
And he actually came and spoke at your architecture school?
That's right.
And that was like a very defining moment for you, was it not?
Yes, one of those aha moments. I remember I was in HMS Pinafore at the time, the Gilbert and Sullivan musical. And I had my score with me because I was off to rehearsal after. I was in second year architecture. I was really just messing around, just trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was doing plays because I liked doing plays and I could perform and sing. And this guy comes and he speaks so simply. I didn't know who he was. He was quite famous in French at the time. And he just spoke about, again, there's no boundaries. This idea that you don't really have to be an architect. You can use whatever you're learning about design, about seeing the world, and apply it to whatever you do. And his creative process, which is sort of how he wrote his plays, applied to anything. So I ended up writing a thesis about him, about the way he creates plays, and I ended up designing a building to house the play that I was writing, and it was kind of feedback loop, which was architecturally pretty useless, but it was fun for me, a way for me to explore ideas, and a way for me to establish my own way of working, which is very much based on a long period of time to create a show, and a lot of improvisation, not just sitting in a room writing, but actually performing things. And that's how he creates his work, is getting people up on their feet and just trying to be spontaneous. And out of that, you pick apart and you put things together and you construct. But it starts from people and their resources, as he calls them, the talents.
Now, tell me about, because you have video screens on stage and that kind of thing as well, does that kind of go in line with what he believes?
Yes, he's always used technology in theater as a way of communicating with people in a modern, we are dealing with technology, you know, there's one filming right now. I think the language that we speak and that young people speak these days is through screens, filtered through these filters, really. And so our world is seen often through a screen, and he doesn't shy away from that. He's not a purist. He doesn't think Shakespeare should be performed without lighting or without amplification. There's no boundaries. Whatever communicates a certain amount of magic to people. And technology is a source of a lot of magic. It creates these little miracles that often, when placed in the right theatrical context, are really cool moments. You know? So MacHomer, yes, I'm not going to say MacHomer is the most judicious use of technology. It's based on a TV show, and I have a screen and I'm using it interactively, but it's not full of magical moments. It's really just an aid to try and bring a TV show to the stage. And so I have this screen that comes alive at certain points with live video, but often there are characters that appear when I perform them the first time, because people don't necessarily know The Simpsons as well as I do.
Right.
So it's
especially now.
Yeah, exactly. After 20 years, some people know, they know Family Guy more than they know The Simpsons, but everyone knows a bit about The Simpsons. So it's just, I'm trying to deal with image as much as I am with sound. So it's a voice play, but it's also very much a visual play.